Can you still hear us, Toyin?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. It just says, it just shows your icon. Maybe you can try to unshare and share it again.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
So it says that yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. 1 second, I'm trying to move this to the side. Alrighty. Let me see, make sure my, 1 second. Can you see my screen? Okay. So, hi everyone, sorry about that. I had to quickly figure out to make sure you guys are seeing my screen. So today we'll be talking about being intentional and emotional well-being. You know, Ms. Diola talked a lot about branding, and I was hearing the buzzword. You have to be intentional. You have to be intentional about a lot of things, about how you present yourself, about how people perceive you, and the things you do to make sure that you stand out for good, not really standing out for bad reasons, but in our lives, in our approach to our goals, in our approach to the things that we want to accomplish. We need to be intentional. We need to be intentional in our health, how we want our health to be, in the choices that we make, so that's another area that we can be intentional. So that's a topic for today that I'll be talking about, how we can be intentional. And then the agenda will be how can I be intentional? Why is being intentional important? What are the areas that we can be intentional in our lives that can yield a greater output or greater productivity or creativity? If we want to move to the next level, if we want to grow, if we want to advance, when we set out our goals, we have to be intentional about how we achieve them. We can't just decide that I want to be a doctor, I want to be anything, whatever it is. If you're in school, I want to have good grades, but what are you doing to have good grades? If you're struggling in an area, whatever area that you're struggling with, and you want to get better, it's not just enough to say, I want to get better. What are you doing to get better? So that is the purpose of, being intentional. And being intentional is really the action that you take, is the action that we take, is the energy we put into our goals, is the energy we put into the things that we want to achieve. So those are the things we'll be talking about. I'll touch briefly on our relationships, communication, academics and career, and ways to be intentional every day, and ways to increase our productivity and improve our overall well-being, because when you achieve your goals, you feel proud of yourself. When you achieve your goal, you feel that you can do more, and that kind of set the tone for moving to the next level. So that's exactly what we'll be talking about today. So looking at the word intentional, what does it mean? What does it mean to be intentional? Being intentional is doing something that with purpose. Something is done with purpose. You have a goal, and then you walk towards it to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So there's a purpose, and it's first of all identifying with what is it that you really want to change. Because without a particular goal, there's no way you can be intentional, you can walk towards it. Things just become kind of blurry. You just do same thing, same way, and you get the same result. There's some saying that says only a fool that would think that they can keep doing the same things over and over again and expect results. If you don't change, there won't be results. So in order to obtain that change, in order to see the progress in whatever area of our lives, we need to be intentional about achieving it. So you have to be upfront about what you want to achieve. You know, like I mentioned, if for like a student, if you struggle with like a science class and that you know that is one of your weak points and you want to get an A, not doing anything about it is not going to get you an A, but taking extra time to study, taking extra time to ask for help if you need help, maybe forming like a good relationship with your professor where they can help you, you know, speaking up and reaching out to people that can help you. You know, Ms. Diola mentioned something about, you know, connection. You know, if you're looking for a job, you have to like make certain connections. You have to apply. You know, the job wouldn't just come to you. If you want to have an income, if you want to improve your life, you have to do something and work towards it. So it's also setting a goal and making plans, you know, taking action. That's the real world there that is in capital letters. Like you have to take action to achieve specific goal that is important to you. So for something to be, for the value of, you know, what we're talking about, it has to be something of importance to you. If it's not of importance to you, if it's not important, you're not going to pay mind to it. And if it's not important, you're not going to like take it seriously to start working towards it. But if it's something that is important to you, then there's always a way to that you want to work towards it. You want to like get to that next target. You want to be able to like accomplish that goal. So everything that is done with a clear purpose. So being intentional is doing everything with clear purpose and focus. So so like I mentioned earlier, like is the ability to see specific results in the future, that if you achieve them, it makes things better for you, it makes your life easier, it puts you in a better place. So in terms of about, I mentioned earlier that we have to be specific. You know, if you have a goal, it has to be specific. Making it general will not help you in navigating your path towards achieving that goal. But when you're specific, you're able to like navigate a clearer path about what is required to achieve that goal. So it's the ability to see specific result. That means you have a foresight of where you want to be, what you want to achieve, and you work towards it in that line. So you focus your energy and your time on your strengths. So being intentional is like just channeling your energy, your time towards achieving a positive, you know, result, you know, that will take you to another level. You know, not allowing yourself to be held back by your fears or anxieties and the things that sometimes limit us. But like, okay, facing, identifying with what you want to achieve and also working towards it. So you channel your strengths. Everybody, we're all different, you know, but you look at yourself, assess yourself, evaluate yourself. You know, I will be talking about how we are all unique in later slides, but you have to like evaluate yourself and see where your strengths are, you know, and understand also your weaknesses, because it is understanding that you're able to like, okay, if my strength or my weaknesses is that I cannot, I'm having difficulties in understanding certain concepts, then, you know, your emotional intelligence, your attitude, and your character as an individual channels, you know, you channel that towards the things that you can now do, the areas that the things that you are good at. You know, if it's your communication, you know, then reach out to people that can help. You know, if it's in helping others, you know, to achieve a particular goal, then you do that. You don't let anything hold you back. So being intentional is also understanding your purpose and how it's woven into the environment and circumstances that you're in. And this is kind of funny because I'll still go back. Let me see if I can go to the next slide. I'll shuffle between these two slides. You see this blue butterfly amongst all other butterfly. And if we look at and examine all the butterflies, even the ones that are just orange and white, they are different. The patterns on them are different. And that's what really makes us all unique. God has created us perfect in our own way with our own abilities and sometimes our limitations. That's because that's just how God created us. So we're all different and unique in our own way, and there's nobody like us, and we have to individually embrace that and embrace that identity as individuals. It's okay to choose your own path and be you. And another references I was while preparing this is that, like, sometimes we compare life as like a race. People have compared life as a race. Everybody, you have to move at your own pace, you have to move at your own speed. And it's important, like, we don't compare ourselves to other people, because when we do that, then we are likely to like fall and fail, and that in turns kind of demoralizes us to continue to try. That's why we as individuals, we have to like see ourselves as unique. Races in life sometimes is like a sprint, and the things and the preparations that you need for sprint races is different for marathon. Marathon, you need endurance. For sprints, you need speed, and you have to train appropriately. So when we're being intentional about like for going back to this part that says you have to understand your purpose and how it's woven into the environment and circumstances that you're in, you have to realize that you have to identify with the things that is surrounding you, the circumstances surrounding you, the situation that you're in, and navigate your way how you want to like get out of it to a better place, or to whether to the next level. So that's why it's important that we don't compare ourselves to others, and that in all of this, we have to be intentional in getting to the next level. Talking of like our choices in terms of career. A doctor goes to school, like a medical doctor spends many years in school to obtain the degree and the ability to be able to like treat other patients, because it's life and death situations where they have to like make certain decisions, and they go through a lot of training for that, compared to somebody that's just maybe doing like finance, and you have to like spend some years depending on what level you want to go. So our path in life, our paths in life basically are different, and the preparation that I have to do, or the things that I have to do to get to my next level, might be different from our presenter, or Miss Sankara, or Miss Adeola, or Mr. Kayode. Everybody is different. So we need to like really identify with ourselves, know where we are, and know the situations that we're in, because the resources that I have, like I said before, might be different from the resources that another person has. So when we compare ourselves, we're really setting ourselves up for failure. But with being intentional, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter how low or how many levels of steps you have to climb to where you want to be. But being intentional allows you to be focused, guides your motivation, to want to get to the next level. And that's just the basics of being intentional. Being intentional helps you to assess where you are, and it guides your motivation to move to the next level. Remember, I said your own motivation to move to the next level, not the level of the person that is like a celebrity, or looking at other people, your friends, parents, or your friends, the things that your friends have, but just you as an individual. It motivates you to like move to the next level of achievement that you have set for yourself. Because the only time that it's okay to compare yourself with others if what you're comparing yourself make yourself a better version of yourself. You understand what I mean? Like you're comparing yourself to make yourself a better version of yourself, not the same sloppy person that one is, but like, okay, if I do this, if I do that, if I study, if I spend extra 30 minutes studying every day after school on an hour, if I spend less time on social media, I'll have time to do ABC. So when we structure ourselves that way, we're able to like really achieve our goals. So I've explained about what being intentional is and how it affects our emotional being. So what are the characteristics of people that are intentional? Like what makes one an intentional person? So one of the things that is that there's an action involved in being intentional. There's an action involved with wanting to move to the next level. It's not just ideal to say, I want to have a good grade or I'm going to have a 4.0 GPA, but what actions are you going to take? So being intentional requires action. Being intentional requires you evaluating yourself and having unshakable determination, because you've identified with yourself, you've identified with where you want to go, where you want to be, in terms of like your goals. Remember, we said it has to be specific. So now the next step is to like take action and having like a strong mindset that nothing will deter you from, moving forward and being flexible. Like one of the topics we talked about last year was about resilience, and I was trying to pull up the pictures, but I couldn't on time. And I think I'd showed a picture of like a palm tree, like when there's a storm, something that we can all identify with. You've seen when there's a heavy rain or there's a storm, you see the wind blowing, you see the trees bending and all of that. And the trees that don't have that flexibility in them will break. The trees that don't have that stamina in them will break. And sometimes that's the thing about our nature. When sometimes you're filled with situations or circumstances that you cannot control, okay, this is where I am, this is what it is. You evaluate the situation, what can I do? And then you work towards it. So being flexible and not being rigid is one of the characteristics of those that are intentional. Like when something is not working according to plans, what step are you willing to take? Do you want to just remain with your old mindset that this is what I want to do, this is how I've planned to do it? But are you flexible to still walk around the situation to help you navigate to your ultimate goal? Some people will say, oh, I'm going to college directly, this is what I want to do, I'm going to this school, period, that's the school I'm applying to. But being flexible helps you to like check out other places, other schools that might be offering the same program, gives you more options, about how you can still attain the particular goal that you have set for yourself. Because when we don't do that, then we're setting ourselves for failure. So we have to be flexible, we have to be adaptable to situations sometimes in order to get to the next level. And then another characteristics of intentional people is that they learn from their mistakes. We have to like learn from our mistakes. If your purpose is to move to the next level, when we have mistakes, you identify with it, you recognize it, and then you learn from it so that we don't make that same mistakes. And also it involves setting boundaries. And this is something that is very applicable to everyone. And it's something that I am still working on in terms of setting boundaries in terms of how you take charge of your time, setting boundaries in how you take charge of the people around you, setting boundaries on how on the things that you allow people to do to you, So when you set that boundaries, it helps you to be kind of focused on the ultimate goals. When you set boundaries about the number of time you spend on social media, the time that people can reach you. If you're working on something, I'm like I said, I'm still learning and working on myself, because when you're learning from your mistakes, you identify with your areas of weakness, and then you use that to kind of buttress yourself, like, okay, how can I improve in this? How can I improve in the way I communicate with people? How can I improve in the way I achieve my objectives for the day? Setting boundaries helps. I'm not picking certain calls at this time because I am focused on studying for 1 hour. But not that you're into studying for 15 minutes and you've allocated 1 hour to study, and then somebody calls you, and then it's like, should I not? I want to like talk to this person, but I'm studying right now. An intentional person will intentionally not pick that call because the goal is to study for 1 hour. It's something we're all guilty of. It's something that I am guilty of. Like when you have something that you're working on, you stay focused on it until it is achieved, except it's like an emergency. One thing we have to realize that when we receive call or when we call people, we're doing it at our own free time, but that person's free time might be a time that is busy for you. And when you get yourself distracted, you might lose track of what you're working on. You might now have to spend extra time trying to study or to catch up on what you were doing, or you might not even return to it at all. So doing an hour study after school might just result into like just 15 minutes, and then boom, the book is closed and you're not able to like really cover all that you need to cover. But being intentional is setting boundaries and knowing that if I've set a goal, I'm going to work and train myself to align myself within that parameters so that I can achieve what I want to achieve. Because without setting boundaries about people, about the time that you're doing things, you might not be able to like achieve those goals. So another thing is like self-awareness. You're constantly evaluating yourself. We evaluate ourselves, how what you're doing, how you're doing it, if you're making progress. If we don't do that, then we don't even know. It's like if you're going somewhere, if you have an intention of, you have a destination, if you don't know where you're going, how would you know when you get there? How would you know and assess that you've arrived at that destination? So you have to like always self-evaluate and be self-aware. Then another thing is that those that are intentional, they have they practice gratitude. You're grateful for the people around you. You're grateful and thankful for the things that are important to you. So you take care of those things. You take care of your relationships. Is it with your parents? Is it with your friends that are of value to you? The things that are of value to you happens to be like where sometimes our attention and our devotion goes to. So if something is not of value to you, even if it's missing, it's like when you have a piece of jewelry that is really, really precious, you keep it very well, you keep it neatly. If that item is not where you kept it, the attention and the care that you've given to it, if that thing is not there, you know. But when you practice gratitude and you're grateful for the people that God has blessed you with, you are intentional about appreciating those people. You're intentional about how you talk to those people. You're intentional about how you reverence those people. If it's your teacher, your parents, certain friends, you're intentional how you relate with them, because these are the people that makes the core of who you are. So those are the some of the characteristics of people that practice gratitude. So when I said in this slide, I said, what's not the meaning of being intentional? Is like being intentional is not talking about wealth. It's not talking about material things. It's not about promotion. It's not just, the focus cannot be just on those things. It's not about being rigid. It's about being flexible and adaptable. And like I said, a tree that does not bend can break to pressures. So I already talked a bit about this, like what are the benefits of being intentional? Being intentional increases your focus on what is most important to you. And that's always the key. If something is not of importance to you, you will not be intentional about keeping it, about appreciating it, about setting boundaries around it, so that you're not flustered, you're focused. So being intentional increases your focus because this is my goal. I want to have an A. This is my goal. I want to be able to do well in my SAT, to get to college, and you're working towards it. So being intentional increases productivity. We talked about like distractions and things that could, deter us from achieving our goals. When we're not intentional, our productivity is low. I give an example of just basic somebody calling you in the middle of something when you're doing something that's of importance. If that thing is not of importance to you, you will pick up the call and answer and chat away and not focus on it. But if it's important to you, trust me, you will want to focus on it because this thing is important. I need to get it done. And what does that do? It increases productivity, increases your creativity, because when you achieve your goals, you're happy. When you achieve your goals, you're confident. It increases your self-esteem to want to move to the next level. So those are some of the benefits of being intentional. Like we're able to like really achieve our goal, and it builds our confidence that really nothing is really like hard. There's nothing that is impossible if we work towards it and we work towards achieving it. So earlier I was going to like share some personal stories about like being intentional and sometimes how, this slide, how we're all different and circumstances in life, our situations in life are not equal and they're different. And how we as individuals have to like run our own race, and I want to share a bit about myself, like my journey, academically, career-wise. After getting married many years ago, I decided to have my family, and I wasn't able to like pursue like career path and all of that. So I was home. I was home raising my kids and all of that. To the average eyes outside, if somebody sees me or whatever, it's like, oh, why is she not in school? Or she just having babies and all of that. But initially, at some point, I used to feel sometimes insecure, like, oh, I ought to be this right now in terms of my career. I ought to be this in terms of what I want to achieve. My mates are this. But then I struggled with that for a while, I'm not going to lie, but it's still all about like, remember, we talked about like self-evaluation and self-assessment. Like my identity is not about my achievement. My identity is not in success. My identity is in what God has made me to be, and I am complete. I am made unique, and I'm complete. I am complete, and it's not what those things are that's going to make me who I am. I have to view myself that, I am fearfully and wonderfully made wherever I am in my journey in life. It's perfectly fine. God has a good plan for me, and I am perfect with that. I had to come to terms with that, and not in terms of like, oh, I want to achieve this. This is where I want to be career-wise. My mates are managers, my this are that. I focused on what was important to me. I focused on my family. I stayed home, I raised my kids, and after overcoming those feelings of sometimes insecurity, because if you compare yourself, you will see people that are greater than you. You will see people that are more beautiful than you. You see somebody that is taller than you. Even if you're 6 feet tall, you're skinny, you find somebody that is skinnier than you. So the best thing is like not to compare yourself and just live your life. So I just lived my life. I focused on what was important to me, which was my family. And then my kids grew up. I went back to school. I went back to school in 2016. I was able to transfer all my credits. Within 2 years, I got my bachelor's. The same year, I went to school for my biomedical informatics. I got my degree, and it's like all the years that sometimes it seems like one has lost, you are able to like redeem it. Where I am, I'm not trying to compare myself. Yes, my mates could be managers right now in terms of like their career ladder, status in life, but I am fine being who I'm fine with where God has put me and where God has placed me. So that's the story of my life and how much I find fulfillment and happiness. You know, so being intentional is not really about achieving material things. It's about finding fulfillment, because that has to be the ultimate goal, like in you being able to achieve your dreams. Let's see, we already talked about it. So what are ways for us to be intentional? What are ways, we can be intentional? We can be deliberate with our everyday. That is so important. Like when we're intentional about our time, we're intentional about our energy, we're intentional about where we put our energy, we're intentional about the strengths that we have. You might want to do 10 things on your agenda, but like when the people say, you make your schedule for the day and all of that, you want to put like the most important things that you need to accomplish and every other thing else. And sometimes in terms of like flexibility, sometimes you move things around, as long as, okay, I'm able to like accomplish these are the things I've set out for the day. If my number 9 is what I did in the morning and I was able to like do that, and maybe number 2, I was not able to do it, I'm able to do it at noon time or in the afternoon, that is fine, but we have to be deliberate. We have to form a routine about the things that we want to do. We have to make a plan, and be active about the result that we want to have. We have to be intentional to make sure that we have a clear structure, that allows us to achieve our goals. Because when we do that, we have greater productivity and we feel proud of what we've achieved, and which will boost our confidence and self-esteem in the long run. And then the second point is that we have to be clear on the result that we want. Going back to the beginning where I said we have to be specific. We have to be specific about the result that we want to achieve. If the result is vague, then there's not going to be like a clear plan to achieve those things. If the things that we want to achieve is vague, you can't really like put it together how you want to achieve it. You just said, oh, I want to lose weight. I want to lose weight. What are you trying to do to lose weight? How many pounds or whatever? You have to set a goal. It doesn't matter, like I said, how many steps it takes for you to get to where you want to be, but taking a step at a time. Once you move from one level to another, you feel proud that if I try, if I stay focused, I can move to the next. And before you know it, you're at the very top of where you really want to be. So those are the things you have to really be clear about the result that we want. We have to be intentional and getting measurable results that we want. We have to be purposeful with our time. We talked about this earlier. We have to be purposeful about the things we spend our time on. If we want to achieve our goal, if we want to move to the next level, we have to work on our time. I'm still working with this. Like I said, nobody is perfect, and sometimes we all struggle with different things in our lives, and that's what makes us all unique. The things that I struggle with might be different from the things that everybody else struggle with, but being purposeful with my time is one of the things I'm working on. Time management, so that I'm able to like accomplish more, and that's is essential in being intentional. We have to really work on and set boundaries around our time, the time that we pick calls, the time that we're checking emails, the time that we're having fun, being on Instagram. There's nothing wrong with being on social media, but we have to set time, how long you want to be on social media. Because if you're not careful, you're going to spend the whole day on social media and accomplish nothing. So when you're purposeful with your time, it helps you to achieve your most important goals. And intentional people always set time, to achieve their goals in the simplest, easiest, and fastest way possible. Being focused on your goals, it's still all around the same theme, what the goals are and being focused on. I hope I'm not running out of time. Being focused on that is essential, and being mindful of your relationships, it's also intentional. This is very intentional for teenagers. It's intentional for everyone. Ms. Diola talked about like sometimes making connection. If you want a job, you want success in terms of like your school activities, you have to be able to like build the relationship that will get you there. You have to be able to like make certain connections, and the people that do not align with that purpose, with that plan, with that goal, then you want to like, set boundaries around how you schedule your time with them, because right now at that point in time, at that point in your life, they are not aligning with your goals. So spending more time with them, playing and doing all sorts with people that are not really like, and is having the same mindset with you, will distract you from the things that you want to achieve and ultimately your goals. So it's important for us to like be mindful about the relationships that we build so that we can have a productive lives, basically. So what are the other ways to be intentional? There are different areas of our lives that we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about our health. We have to be intentional about our mental health. Part of what we talked about in the previous slide, the people that we hang up around with, if people are negative all the time and, being around them demoralizes you, being around them discourages you, being around them just does not give you the positive vibe of where you want to go, then you have to reduce your time around them. It's not that you're being mean or being rude, but it's just something that we have to do because their purpose does not align with yours. You have to be intentional because you're focused on where you want to go. We're focused on where we want to be. So doing this intentionally, reducing the time so that their negativity does not impact you. Because sometimes you might have a goal and you share with people that don't have the same type of vision or dream, and they say something and it just it's like pouring cold water over you, and it's like you start doubting yourself. Self-doubt comes to mind because of what somebody has said to you. But if there are people around you that are being negative, then you reduce your interaction with them. That is intentional. There's nothing wrong with it. You are being intentional about the things that you receive into you, because whatever you receive into you is what will come out. If people pour positive stuff into you, then that positivity will come out. If it's negative, that negativity will come out in terms of anxiety, depression, and fear that am I going to be able to like accomplish these things, these goals. So being, taking care, adding mental care to your routine is part of being intentional. Taking time to rest, putting you first, setting time for me, and self-care, personal self-care, where you just want to like breathe, do your exercises. It's being intentional to have good health. It's being intentional to live long. It's being intentional to be healthy. So that is other way of being intentional that overall affect our well-being and our productivity and creativity. So being intentional about social media use, we already talked about this. Setting boundaries around your time, we already talked about this. And appreciating and practicing gratitude for the things that matter most to you in life. The things that you appreciate, you will value. The things that you value, you will appreciate. The people that are kind to you, the people that pour virtue into you, the people that pour life and courage and encouragement into you. You want to value them, you want to appreciate them, you want to treat them well, because those are the people that makes the core of who we are. So practicing and appreciating the people that are important to us is intentional. It's not just like, oh, because somebody is there. You don't take people for granted. You know, we don't take people for granted. We have to appreciate the people that are giving us, that are supportive to us. So that is an intentional act. It's an intentional act in building good relationships. When you have good relationships with your families, with your friends, with your colleagues at work or at school, you know, that you study together and they are good friends that don't try to deter you into doing things that are against the law, then you know, being able to like appreciate those people and thanking them once a while and doing something good for them once a while is a way of you being intentional about keeping the good relationships in your life. So these are the topics I felt like in order to move forward in life, in order to advance to the next level of where we want to be in life, we have to be intentional. They're not going to happen by themselves. You know, our goals are not going to become realized just by thinking about the goals. We have to be intentional about how we get to achieve those goals. So one of the quotes I have here is it says, when your intention is clear, so is the way. We have to be intentional. It says an unintentional life accepts everything and does nothing. We can't just do nothing and expect to change. An intentional life embraces only the things that will add mission of significance. So that goes back to like identifying with the things that are important to you, identifying the things of value to you, and being focused on your goal, being focused on the specific goals that we want to achieve. So that's from John Maxwell. That's one of his quotes. And another from Kurt Campier. It says, if you're going to grow, you have to be intentional. If we want growth, we have to be intentional. If we want advancement, we have to be intentional in whatever area of our life, be it academically, be it in the way we communicate, be it in the way we our career choices. You know, if you want to become a doctor in the future and you're still in elementary school, you want to take interest in science subjects. You want to like be you want to be take interest in those things that matters, so that those things will add up in helping you navigate your path forward to becoming exactly what you want to be. So these are my points for today. I hope somebody has been blessed and somebody has learned something new. For me, it's something I'm still working on, and I hope that we can all be intentional in our everyday lives, in the things that we do, our goals and our ambitions for the future. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, TOYIN, for sharing your work with us. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Yeah, so we have between now and 1:10.
Yes, ma'am.
Before the next talk starts. So I wanted to just ask one question, and then we can transition to the next question. And for everyone, please don't forget to put your phones or your devices on mute, so because we're getting some audio interference. So my question for you, Ms. TOYIN, is when people think about intentionality, right? They always think, I have to know what I'm doing with my life, right? I have to know what I'm doing with my life for me to be able to focus on it. But since most of our audience here are youth, many times they're still thinking, they don't even, I'm really young, right? A lot of our kids are in Nigeria and don't really have a good sense of, trying to see where the audio. Okay, so yeah, so a lot of it is about I have to know where my life is going. I have to have a plan already. So how would you advise some people who may not have a plan yet, and they still want to be intentional about their lives, like students who I'm just an SS1 student. I don't know what I want to be, but I need to be intentional. How would you advise them?
Okay, for those that are seeking a career path or that want their goal is to have like maybe whatever their goal is in terms of their career, the ways they can be intentional is you form relationships. You form a relationship. You have a mentor. You have a mentor, somebody that can help.
Tony, can you unmute yourself? I thought I muted it.
Hello?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, so it's always good for young people to have mentors, and that's one of the things I appreciate about Ms. Adeola. She mentors young girls about being themselves, about the future, and about being an entrepreneur. So whatever thing that we want or an individual wants, they can have a mentor. You talk to your parents, you talk about the desires that you have, even when you don't have a plan, even when you're in school and you're not sure of what you want to do. Evaluate yourself and identify your strengths. We talked about that. Evaluate yourself, identify your strengths, your weaknesses. Have a mentor, let that guide you, let them tell you, okay, this is the things that you can do, even if you're not there yet. You can volunteer in places to get experience, to see if that area of study might be what you really want. Some people say, I want to be a medical doctor, I want to be a medical doctor. They get into school and then maybe they have like practicals and they have to like do internships somewhere, and they realize that they can't stand the hospital. They realize that they cannot, do certain things. You don't want to waste time to get to that point before realizing that's what you want to do. So you want to like explore your horizon when you're young. You read up on information. You have a mentor that you share information with about your plans and what do they think, how do they think you can get to that point, because going to somebody that is ahead of you, they already have the experience. They know they might know one or two things about the industry that you might not know. So opening up your mind to different ideas and having a mentor, I think is a good thing for young adults, so that you don't get into school and spend 4 years and have all the debt and not be sure of what your degree is going to be. Because I've experienced people that end up saying undecided till their 3rd year, and this is like amassing amount of debt on young adults, because you're undecided throughout high school, middle school, high school. You were undecided. 1st year, 2nd year, you're undecided. But if that person continues in that trend, it's like they start getting frustrated because they're like, okay, where do I belong? What do I want to do? But while you're in high school, try to volunteer, reach out to professionals at your church, in your school, different career field, different career path. Talk to them about what they do. What is their day like? Is it something that will be of interest to you? That is how you start forming, because you're not